The night was quiet, almost too quiet for a city of millions. In the cold glow of streetlights, a tiny hand knocked timidly on a set of towering glass doors. The security guard eyed the small girl with confusion. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her hair was tangled, her clothes worn, and her eyes haunted. "Please," she whispered, voice shaking. "They hurt my mom. She's dying." The guard hesitated, unsure, until a familiar voice echoed from behind him. The CEO, known across the country as one of the youngest self-made millionaires, stopped mid-step, briefcase in hand. His eyes fell on the child, and something in him froze. He didn't know why yet, but his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. Adrian Malik was a man who didn't believe much could surprise him. At 38, he had climbed from foster care to Forbes lists, surviving betrayal, poverty, and people who had written him off all his life. He was respected, feared by his competitors, and known for being unshakably composed. But the moment that little girl looked up at him, tears streaming down her dirty cheeks, his world tilted. "Did you say, your mom is hurt?" he asked quietly. She nodded, gripping a folded paper like it was the last piece of hope she had left. "They came to our house. They wanted money. Mom tried to stop them. Please, help, you're the only name she told me to find." It didn't make sense. How would a random child know his name? But something far deeper than logic tugged at him. He knelt down slowly. "What's your name?" he asked, voice softening in a way his employees had never heard. "Alina," she whispered. Her lips trembled. "They said she won't make it till morning. She told me, find Adrian Malik, tell him I never forgot." His breath caught. A name surfaced from a part of his heart he'd bolted shut long ago: Sarah. Sarah was the only woman who had shown him kindness when the world had shoved him into darkness. When he was 16 and homeless, she had been the young nurse who gave him food, warmth, and a promise that life could still change. She'd once told him, "If I ever need help and can't speak, your name will be the one I call in my heart." He hadn't seen her in over 20 years. Could it be her? Without another word, Adrian scooped Alina into his car and ordered his driver to move. Alina clutched that folded paper like it was breathing for her. In the back seat, she sniffled and whispered, "They hit her with something heavy. She shielded me. I yelled, but they took our money and phones. She told me to run, to find you, said you'd remember her eyes." Adrian stared ahead, knuckles white. Memories he had buried hit him like a storm. Sarah laughing while handing him tea, scolding him gently for refusing help, calling him stubborn but brilliant, the way she believed in him before anyone else did. When they arrived at the tiny, broken neighborhood on the far edge of the city, Adrian felt guilt claw at him. Luxury had erased places like this from his daily view, but not his memory. The house was barely standing, door kicked in, shards of glass glittering like cruel stars. Paramedics were still there. Alina bolted inside with Adrian close behind. On a torn mattress lay a woman whose face, though bruised, still held echoes he could never forget. The nurse who'd saved him, older, thinner, exhausted by life, but undeniably her. Sarah. Adrian knelt beside her, voice shaking. "Sarah, it's me." Her eyelids fluttered, as though his voice traveled across time to wake her. She tried to speak, but pain stole her breath. He grabbed her cold hand gently. "You're not dying tonight. Not on my watch." Alina clung to her mother's other hand, tears silently falling. Sarah's lips parted. "I knew you'd become someone strong. I hoped one day, you'd forgive the world with kindness." Her voice cracked. "I couldn't escape them. They knew I got paid today. I told Alina to run. I told her, find you. I never stopped praying for you." Adrian's voice broke for the first time in years. "Don't speak. I'm getting you to the best hospital right now." Within minutes, his own medical team, people who catered to billionaires, were rushing in under his orders. Neighbors watched in disbelief as luxury ambulances swept in, lifting Sarah like royalty from the ruins of her pain. At the hospital, she underwent emergency surgery. Adrian stayed. He cancelled board meetings, ignored phone calls, and sat with Alina, who finally slept in his coat. For hours, he watched through the glass, haunted by the past, how he had tried to find Sarah years ago but failed, how he'd buried emotions under mansions and mergers. Now fate had dragged him back. When the doctor finally stepped out, Adrian stood instantly. "She's alive for now," the surgeon said. "But she lost too much blood, and her condition is fragile. Whoever did this, left more than physical wounds." Adrian nodded, reserved but burning inside. He arranged immediate protection, security, and financial care. He bought them a place near the hospital. And he stayed. 4 days. Sarah slowly regained consciousness. Her first words were not of pain, but of fear for her daughter. "Where's Alina?" she croaked. Adrian held her hand. "Safe. Sleeping. Eating. Drawings all over my office." Sarah's eyelids fluttered with relief. Tears formed at the corners of her exhausted eyes. "And you? You're real," he almost laughed, but pain swallowed the sound. "You saved my life when I had no one. You're the reason I didn't give up. Whatever you think you owe the world, it's the world that owes you." As she healed, Adrian learned the depth of her struggle. She had raised Alina alone. Worked 2 jobs. Fought off landlords and debts. He discovered the men who attacked her were part of a loan shark ring extorting poor families. Something inside Adrian changed from quiet guilt to roaring purpose. He used his resources, not for revenge, but justice. He anonymously funded the police task force, hired private investigators, and tracked the gang responsible. Within weeks, arrests were made across the city. The story hit the news, though Adrian's name was absent. Sarah wouldn't have wanted fame, she wanted safety. Meanwhile, Alina grew attached to him. She followed him around with questions and crayons. She had her mother's empathy and fierce spirit. Adrian surprised himself by smiling more in those weeks than in the past decade. His board members whispered about his sudden disappearances, but he didn't care. One evening, as rain pattered softly outside Sarah's new apartment, fully furnished, warm, safe, she sat propped up, watching Alina show Adrian a drawing of them together. Sarah's voice was quiet. "You've done enough, Adrian. We can manage now. I don't want to burden you." He stared at her, stunned. "You think this is charity? This is me finally being human. You told me once that pain doesn't define us, what we do with it does." She blinked back tears. "You remembered that?" His answer was a whisper. "I lived by it." Weeks turned into months. Adrian hired Sarah as a consultant for a new foundation he created, one aimed at helping single mothers, abused families, and underprivileged kids. She resisted at first, but he reminded her, "You saved lives before you knew mine existed. Let me amplify what you already are." Alina thrived in a new school. She spoke boldly in class about helping people, about courage, about her uncle Adrian who was a secret superhero. Adrian didn't correct her. Eventually, he moved them into a safe neighborhood near his home, not out of pity, but because every time he walked away from them, it felt wrong. One night, while driving Alina home from school, she said something that nearly stopped his heart. "When I grow up, I'll help someone lost, like you were, and like Mommy was. Because people think rich hearts don't exist, but they do." Adrian swallowed slowly, eyes glistening. Months later, Sarah stood outside the new headquarters of the foundation Adrian named the Alina Hope Initiative. He unveiled the sign with one hand on Sarah's shoulder, the other holding Alina's hand. Cameras flashed, not because of the money behind it, but the story that leaked of a woman who protected her daughter with her own body, and a man who remembered a kindness that the world forgot to celebrate. When reporters finally asked him why he built the project, he simply said, "Because someone believed I had value when I didn't. And because no child should ever have to knock on a stranger's door to save their mother." The audience went silent. And on the day the foundation opened its doors, the same little girl who once stood in the dark outside a glass building now stood in front of thousands and whispered into the microphone, "They hurt my mom, but someone helped us heal. If he didn't listen that night, she'd be gone. So if someone knocks on your heart, don't pretend you can't hear." Applause erupted. Tears fell. And for the first time in years, Adrian Malik didn't see himself as the boy the world forgot, he saw himself through the eyes of those healed by a promise kept. And somewhere in the soul of every listener, a quiet voice rose, kindness remembered is a life redeemed.